Welcome to another amazing episode of the Alumni Podcast. Honestly, this is really great because it's our first teacher coming on
It
from
is.
our years, and it's amazing. We love this teacher, right, T?
Absolutely. He's totally legendary in the Santa Monica High School community. So I'm glad it took a while to cajole him to be on, but I'm glad Geoff Tipper's here today. It's awesome.
All right, let's not mess this up, Tyler. We'll be right back after this intro.
Perfect. We the alumni, ripping it up while you were gun shy. Run it back, reincarnated, graduated and elevated. Past lives of fast times from our high school and beyond education. Take a listen, nostalgia's never distant. No disses on this track, we handle our business. NBA, JD, DPT, we got the stack. Hey Jim, it's time to bring our classmates back.
Every time I hear it, it's like I heard it from the first time. It's really great. Hi, Mr. Tipper. How you doing?
I'm doing great. This is quite an honor to be the first teacher to come back. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Amazing. And you know, T, me and Tyler actually had you, which is kind of a rarity. And me and Tyler for one semester had you at the same time, and then I switched my schedule around, and then I had him in a different period for AP statistics. So this is going to be interesting. And I pulled out the yearbook. We got Mr. Tipper here, and he's coaching. He's refereeing dodgeball.
He's a
right
ref
here.
with dodgeball, yeah.
He's reffing it. I don't know if you can see him with the whistle.
That's right.
Multi-talented
Picture. And then he signed my yearbook. So I'm going to read it. 14 years later, it's almost like it's still a wet signature. I promise. Jim, sorry that Team Kenya, that was our dodgeball team, was not showcased above, but we both know that you were the best team. Thanks for a fun year. Clippers for life. Keep up the hard work. You'll do great things. I know it, Tipper, which is super amazing. Thanks for that signature, Mr. Tipper. Appreciate that.
Do you want me to read yours?
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
If you found mine, let's do it. Yeah.
Nice. That's the
I
first
got it.
two. Go for it.
There's a couple words I can't quite make out, but I think we'll muddle through. You were signing under Austin Hodges, and so you were continuing. You said to continue what Austin was saying. Tipper, I appreciate your teaching ability. You were great. I'm late, so let me do this in bullet points. I think you said Clippers equals LeBron. I think at that time it's possible that there was some speculation that LeBron might come to the Clippers.
Yeah.
That was his free agent summer.
You just wrote CLT theorem, central limit theorem. Fantastic. You said thanks for the advice for true. I think I'm not sure what the last word was there, but and I appreciate. And again, this is where it falls apart. I appreciate our Kemps growing. I'm not sure what that one was, but maybe we both like Sean Kemp.
Might be a card game.
Yeah. I think we were playing Kemps in your class.
Yeah, it's a card game, I think, that I've played before.
Yeah. That's
cool.
pretty awesome that you have that.
That is awesome.
That's really cool.
I also have Tyler's is like back to back with yours on the.
Do you have mine? Oh shoot!
Okay,
I
do.
Let's hear it.
I'll be honest, I'd forgotten about this. It said you had my brother Ryan back in 2007, and the first thing he told me was to take AP statistics. I see why he was so interested that I got you, simply because you're the best, even though you called me Ryan a lot this year. I did not remember that I messed up your name, probably in the beginning while I did that so often. It's
all good.
He said, thanks for all the college help. You seem to actually care about your students. Keep up the good work. Always remember Escapa, which I know what that is, and to look for your textbook. So I think I was constantly losing where my textbook was. Like, where's my textbook when I had to bring stuff out? The Escapa story is like a random story from my high school, which was this weird water polo story with a friend of mine named Eric, where we were both in Spanish class together. And Escapa, ESCAPA, was an acronym for all the irregularly conjugated verbs. in some Spanish class.
Okay.
And it was our code name to each other that we could call out, and we could say "escapa" when we wanted the ball in a certain situation. And there was a particular video, I don't know if I was able to pull it out and show you in class, where you could audibly hear, I think it was me call out "escapa" to him, and he just lasered a pass to me, and I scored it, and it was a great time. So that must have been a story I told recently. From that
Wow, that's a deep cut. I don't even remember writing that, but that's sweet. Yeah,
That's awesome.
that's awesome.
That's super cool. I'm glad you had that. That's super cool to us. So we're gonna ask you to rate not only our class, but your graduating class in high school from 1 to 10 as far as your experience level with us. 10 being the best and 1 being the absolute worst.
So I'm not meaning to shine you guys on or anything like that. It's got to be a 10 for you guys. Like I would look back at this yearbook.
Yeah.
I was shocked that I had it, and when I look back through it and looked through, and the names just rushing back to me, just and some light ones, some fun things, but also just some deep stuff where, like, for instance, my child was born. First child. I have 2 girls now, and my first kid was born while I was like in your class, and in your guys' classes, I remember putting up on the board her name, Kyra, and asking, okay, how would you pronounce this? And we were weighing options. And all of a sudden, I was gone one day, and your guys were like, all right, that's it. It's game time.
Right.
we're getting a little Tipper coming in, and I'm sure I brought her in a couple times after that to see you guys. So it's got to be a special year when your first kid's born. And so many messages in the yearbook about, like, oh, I hope you have the best summer with your wife and child, isn't it? Like a whole family and things like that. So that was cool. But also, just you guys students were amazing. You two, so many other like memorable people in there. I will say your class includes, so Dina Marak is maybe the only person I've been to her wedding. So, like, I don't think I've been to many students' weddings, but she's also in your year. And there's just a lot of other, like Danny Wacker, I remember, was in there.
Yes.
We had tons of conversations. I mean, there's so many I could list off everyone that was in there, but it hit after hit of just the kind of amazing students that still stick in my brain 14, 15 years later or whatever.
That's incredible. Oh my God.
My own high school experience, you're saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
1 to 10.
1 to 10 on my own high school experience. Pretty up there. I made sure I did everything I wanted to do. I probably didn't work as hard as I maybe should have. The work ethic came in college, I feel like. But I give mine a solid 8. I was in I did sports, I did water polo, I did swimming.
Yeah.
But I also found time to do like the plays and the musicals and like dramatic art, and that was definitely a juggling act. Like it's not easy to do both those things at the same time. So but I was able to do both of those. We came up in a simpler time, I will say. Bullying had to happen face to face.
That's right. The good old days.
The good old days, right? And so it was a simpler time. It was pretty laid back. Once you got a car, you were pretty free. And I got into my top school. UCSB was like the number one I wanted to go to. So hard to complain. I think I enjoyed it.
Oh, that's sweet. Very well rounded there. Those are 2 high ratings, Jim. That's pretty good praise right there.
A 10 and an 8. That's really, really solid. I would not anticipate. That's amazing. And coming from a high school teacher, I think I actually kind of expect that. So
I liked it so much I came back.
Perfect.
For a year of touring together.
This is going to be awesome. This is the first time that we've ever put a teacher in the hot seat, Tyler.
It's true.
So this is going to be special. The rules are 2 passes, about 6 questions. And if it gets too hot, just pass it along. And let's see what we got. Let's put Tipper in the hot seat.
See what we got. We got Daydreaming on the soundtrack in the back, so it's all good. We're ready. Question 1, Tip, is going to be, who was your high school crush, and did you ever shoot your shot? You remember that far back? Who'd you like in high school?
Man, this is going to be kind of an easy one. So I knew my wife back in high school, so I was
no way. Oh my
we
gosh,
were basically high school sweethearts. There was a bit of a scandalous age gap. I was a senior when she was a freshman, but it was till college where we really kind of made it official, and she also came to UCSB. And that time,
Awesome.
age differences tend to vanish, and so yeah. So that I shot my shot, and I put a ring
Worked
on
out. Now you have 2 kids.
Yeah.
Well done.
That's a good one. I love that. Question 2 is doubtful, but let's say, who did you have a real problem with in high school? Like between classmates, did you have beef with anybody, or just didn't have a good vibe around anybody in high school?
So like I was like an all around I like everybody kind of person. You know, in like the senior superlatives, I think I got like most spirited. So I like went to all the sporting events and everything else. So pretty much, if you get along with me, I get along with you. But I was also tall for my age. So like I'm only 5'11", but I was 5'11" as a freshman, and so like I came in, I kind of stood out. I also grew my hair very long, and so in high school, I don't know if you've ever seen my. I don't know if I have one handy, but maybe as a treat at the end I can show you a high school photo.
Yes.
So I had long hair, and at that time, 90s, whatever, it draws attention. So I did get I would say attempted bullying, because I was a big guy, so like it wasn't going to go very far. But there were some guys, even though we were in Irvine, there were some guys who thought they were hard a little bit, and they would. You know, they'd mess around a little bit. It never went anywhere. I don't think I ever had a major beef, but it's guys that like kind of everyone would have had beef with a little bit, just because they were trying to be bullies at school.
Of course,
that's fair. Yeah, sometimes growing too fast, too early is you're a target for sure in high school. So that definitely makes a difference. Yeah,
definitely.
Was the long hair like a consequence of like the Nirvana grunge scene, or what inspired that? It was just,
I think 100%, and it took so long to grow it. I was almost a little late for that Nirvana grunge scene. I nailed it, but like by the time I grew it out, I think a lot of people were going with a shortcut, and I was like, no, this took 3 years. I'm leaving it for now.
Sticking to this.
I kept it, I kept sticking with it. I kept it all the way through college, and I had equal parts people telling me, it's fantastic, never change it, and you know what, shave it off. Like, what are you doing? So eventually it went away.
With fashion and stuff, all of it comes full circle eventually. So do your thing when it comes to that, and it'll be fine. Question 3 is going to be, did you drink or do drugs in high school? Why or why not? What was your take on that scene?
It was so interesting. So I probably had a couple sips of beer, honestly, and I wasn't like straight edge or anything like that. But I went to parties. I liked being social, but you know, I never wanted to, I guess, risk. I don't know, I had a good relationship with my parents, I guess it would be, and I'm an only child too, so all spotlight on me. Pretty hard to get one past my parents.
That's true.
Since I'm the only one leaving or entering the house at any time of the night. So I think I saved all that for college, and then college.
Okay.
I went to UCSB at that point.
Yeah,
I know. We all know what happens at UCSB. Exactly right. Yeah, I don't even need to ask that question at that point. Yeah. There you go. Rolling right through for these so far. Question 4. It's getting a little hotter. Now we're talking finances. Are you currently north or south of a 6-figure income, sir?
North. So I will. No. Quick answer. I'm north.
Yeah.
And that comes with longevity of teaching. They're all very public, so I don't even need. This is not super hot, but like anyone look me up.
Transparent California.
I work in Irvine Unified School District. We are a decently and well-paid school district. I would say it's pretty comparable, about the same, maybe that much higher than Santa Monica, Malibu. And I've been teaching for 24 years.
Yeah.
And I have the highest education levels, you know, which a lot of people do, to put you over on the side. So in the end, you know, just north, it feels okay. And when people say teachers don't get paid well,
what are your thoughts?
Generally, that is true, but like, it's more true if you go to other states. If you go into like Middle America and things like that, they're very underappreciated. We're looking at, you know, 35, 45,000 starting salaries, which are just hard to be competitive when you're looking at any middle level corporate, entry level anything as a comparison, you know. But I'd say here in California we do a good job.
That's good. That's expected. I mean, 20 years of teaching and at a high level in mathematics obviously. So I would be outraged if it was anywhere.
I would flip my desk if Tipper wasn't making 6 figures. I would flip my desk and say, the world is not right, people. This man needs a paycheck. This man needs a paycheck. That's right. I would fight for you, Tip. You're that good of a professor or teacher. Yeah, for sure.
Give me my money.
That's right.
Exactly.
Let's see. This question probably won't apply as mostly for our classmates. The actual question as it reads is, as of this podcast, is your investment portfolio larger than your student loan debts? But in your case, I'll just ask, how long did it take you to pay off, if you had student loan debts at UCSB? How many years?
I did. So in my financial situation there was my parents had enough to pay for about 3/4 of my undergraduate college.
Okay.
And so partially because we had a good relationship and I was so trustable with money, they just kind of, after I think freshman year, they just handed me all the money. They just said, here is all your money. If you find a way to save it, then that's some extra money for you. And if it's not quite enough, then you need to get jobs. And so I worked multiple jobs during college, like tutoring and middle to high paying jobs for a college student. I was an RA for a year, that kind of stuff. And so I was able to pay fully for that for my undergrad. In the graduate school that I did at UCSB, it was an intensive program. So you had your student teaching, but then literally after, so like picture like a high school day, you also had classes after that. So there was no way to even do part-time work, like at all. You did not have a part-time job. You also had Saturday classes. You couldn't do weekends. Like there was you barely had enough time. What I literally got told was, if you are not living with the person you're dating, you might want to break it off. Like it, and luckily I was living with my now wife at that time.
Exactly.
So it worked out okay. But couldn't have another job, so I had to take out loans for that. I think in the end I took out $24,000 in aid. 4,000 was a grant, so that was 20,000. So it wasn't that much. I mean, that's pretty good. And then it was more than what I needed, so I knew that I could then live off that as I found jobs and got paid. And what I found toward the end of my time was I think there's a new version of it, but at the time it was called Apple. It was called Assumption of Loans Program for Teachers or something like that. Work that out with the acronym, but they paid off your loans if you worked as a teacher in math or a couple other fields for 4 years. They pay off a little bit every year for 4 years. And so after the 4 years worth, it ended up paying off like 14,000, I think, of that loans.
Nice.
And so I think in the end, like once that last one was done, I think I just had I had like maybe 3,000 or 4,000 left in the loans. And so after that 4 years, I could have paid it off earlier, possibly. I think I paid it off in one lump sum just at the end there. So it took me 4 years technically, but probably could have happened faster.
Solid. That is a solid cleanup of 20K in loans roughly. Nice. Last two. You still have 2 all passes if you need it. First one's gonna be, do you have any embarrassing high school moments that come to your mind just talking to me right now, or what's the most embarrassing moment?
In my own high school, I don't know. I don't remember there being anything like too overly embarrassing. I'm pretty hard to embarrass is the other part. I'm pretty just
That's
out
good.
there, I'm gonna embarrass myself.
It's a good trait. Yeah.
It's a self-defense mechanism, right? I'm gonna embarrass myself before anyone else has a chance to.
Sure.
I don't remember if it's any of your classes, but I'm going to tell you at least one. There's a couple of these. When I'm a teacher, there was a couple of embarrassing moments, but just ended up being funny. So I think when I was teaching AP statistics, so I must have been 4th, 5th year teacher, I said I wanted to get my AP statistics students to really think of themselves as AP stats students. And AP stats is a class where it might be your only AP. Like you can get into it with like a lower bar to entry than maybe some other AP classes.
Right.
And so, but I really wanted them to like embrace the concept that they're an AP student. But what came out of my mouth is I told a whole class of seniors that I wanted them to embrace their AP-ness. And that I lost.
Not gonna fly.
I lost them for like 10 minutes. It sounded so right coming out like in my head.
Yeah.
-NESS, right? But embrace your AP-ness.
It happens.
Right.
And there was another one that was very similar to that, where it was not in AP stats, it was in like math, algebra 2, where there was like one where a kid who was an A student got a bad grade on their first thing, and then they did better the rest of the way, and how many A's did it take to get back to A in the class? Kind of showing the power of getting a 0. And the kid asked, the very thoughtful question. Said, look, if this kid's an A student, why'd they get a 0 on their first assignment? And I said, well, so really quick off the dome, I said, they were so confident in their ability to get an A that they just slacked on the first assignment. That's what I meant to say. Then again, the -NESS came in, and I said, the kid is so confident in their anus that they, again, both of these came from the same problem.
Right.
Throwing -NESS on the back of a word. So those ones were pretty hard to dial it back in after that. You lose a class.
Right. You do lose the class, I'm sure, at that point. Oh my gosh. Last one is probably already answered. Did you have your first kiss in high school? I don't know. Was that with
first kiss? I think was in middle school.
Oh, middle school. Okay.
Technically, if we want to get like real technical, I think it was in elementary school. But it was one of those like everyone standing around. We were quote boyfriend girlfriend for a second, and it was on the cheek, and I think then we broke up the next day because it freaked her out, or something like something very sixth grade like doesn't make any sense. But in terms of like legitimate, slightly romantic kiss, I'd be middle school.
Very cool. Well, you survived the hot seat for 7 out of 7 questions. That's respect. The teacher's leading the path there from the front. I like it. Good stuff. Jim's going to take you to the Wayback Machine now, and then kind of, I think, are you going to modify that, Jim? I'm not sure.
We're going to modify this a little bit.
Okay.
Good job, Tipper. No passes. I mean, some of our peers came on and used passes, okay?
Right.
Teacher used no passes.
No passes.
We got to give it up, Tyler.
Step up, people. Future guests. Come on.
Right. Come on. Tip's leading the charge.
So way back in 1995, that's 29 years ago. Not to age anyone, but that's what it is. In 1995, Geoff Tipper graduated from University High School. Top movies at the time, and I have them queued up here, were Batman Forever, Apollo 13, and Toy Story. Top songs at the time were Gangster's Paradise by Coolio, Mr. Boombastic by Shaggy, and a song by Jodeci, Freaking You. All came out in 1995. You graduated high school. Don't know who your principal was at the time. Do you recall her name?
I don't. Top of my head, I don't know my own high school principal's name.
Tried looking it up, didn't find it. And
internet's getting murky. Like, that's the Gen X thing, man. Like, we did stuff in the shadows. You can't find the stuff.
You were just before the internet boom. Yeah, that's right. You're so lucky.
That's true. Well, you shook that person's hand, and I think they had grad night. They always have grad night, something going on. You probably went to that. What was your grad night?
It was similar, honestly, to what you guys do. Like, so you guys had that big like ship, right? That we built on campus. Ours was also on campus. But we didn't have a big ship. It was just in our gym. It was a fairly new gym. But it was, a pretty standard. Got your casino night. You play carnival games. You earn coins. Sweet. You go casino night. Maybe you make some, maybe you lose some. They're pretty generous. You throw, into some prizes. I think I came up a blank. I don't think I won any of the raffles. They had a hypnotist that we all wondered whether people up at the hypnotist actually were or weren't. I wasn't up there.
Right.
And a dance floor and things like that. Pretty standard stuff. It was very fun. I remember being a good time. Oh, bounce house stuff in the back. There was like sumo wrestler stuff.
Yep, we had sumo stuff. I remember that.
Bounce house and so really, I think probably the standard up playbook.
That's pretty cool. You went to grad night, and then you go home and you lose touch with most of your peers. That's just how it is. And once you do that, you embark on the next journey. It's a college, it's a whole different world than high school. Take us through from that moment when you woke up in grad night, after grad night, all the way until you met our class in 2010. And then what you've been doing since then. And the floor is yours.
Yeah, nice. I'll give it a quick run because I'm a little older than some of your guests normally, but I'll lay down the story. So when I woke up, what's really funny is I think I remember specifically the day after I went on to campus. I think I had to pick something up. Like, they didn't give us our diplomas at graduation. You had to go pick them up. But I wanted to do that like the following day. And I did it for a specific reason. And I got that, which was walking on campus when I didn't have to be was like a different feel. Like when I was no longer ever going to be required to be there. And a couple other my friends were there. I think we went out to lunch that day just to kind of celebrate it. And so that was fun. I had this tight group of friends, and we would always hang out throughout the summer. So I was hanging out with them. I think I coached some water polo now as a graduate. I think I coached the incoming class of summer water polo as a way to keep busy for the head off to UCSB. Again, I was lucky enough to get into UCSB. It became a much tougher school after I entered. We had the party school rep, but we didn't yet have the academic school rep. And we kind of got that right around the time I was there. We started picking up some Nobel laureates as teachers and kind of got some more credit. So yeah, we headed off to UCSB. What was cool was I roomed with my friend, actually the one from the Escapa story, same Eric. He was a roommate of mine for our freshman year of college in the dorms. So we stayed in the dorms for my first year, and then I was an RA for my second year, also in the dorms. I was studying primarily psychology. I didn't switch majors as many do, but I just came in as a psychology like pre-major. And then I became a psychology major while I was there, obviously, and graduated with that degree. I think I added on a minor in mathematics so that I could be a teacher if I wanted to be. I didn't know till late junior, senior year that I really wanted to commit to teaching. I could have been psychologist or research psychologist or things like that was my other career choices. So I did my first 2 years on campus. I really liked my RA time. I got a single room. That was nice. Room and board paid for, helped with that money situation. I made good friends with my hallmates, who I was in charge of, but like, I just made it clear, like, look, if you don't make me write you up, there won't be any problems. Please don't let me smell, hear, or see anything, and we're going to be good. And they did that, to their credit. I heard later that they would send a scout. So if they were going to party and they were trying to figure out where to do it, always before they would in my hall, they sent a scout to my room to ask me some innocuous question, like, hey, when do you register? Like, just random questions. And I do actually remember random kids coming up to my door and asking me just the most random questions. And so they would check out whether I was there or not. If I was there, they partied elsewhere. They just went somewhere else to party. So it was someone else's headache. They're like, let's not give him this headache. And if I wasn't there, evidently they went a little wild on my floor. It was someone else's headache. Someone else had to.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Right. And I didn't understand what was going on because the other coworkers of mine came to me and said, why don't you patrol your hall? And I'm like, every time I'm there, they're fine. I only found out literally the year later. One of my hall, people, I don't know what to call them, hallmates, that's closest. Sure. They came up to me and they said, hey, this is what we did. We went and checked if you were there. And if you were there, we didn't mess with it. And I'm like, that's why I never had to write you up. But thank you guys. Yeah. That's so good. I ended up rooming with them, a couple of them, the next couple of years. And that was off Del Playa, which is like the Oceanside street, and we had an Oceanside apartment. So for 2 years, I lived on the ocean side of the like kind of the biggest party street. We had some parties. We had bands in our backyard, bands in our living room sometimes. It was kind of a wild time, little bohemian lifestyle, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah. And then the following year is when I really started dating my now wife, and we moved a couple streets away from the ocean, a couple streets down to a quieter block. And so we lived together there that was my grad school year. UCSB was an absolute blast. It was the most fun, beautiful location. You have to have some self-discipline to put up with the ability to find a party on any given day. You have to control yourself a little bit, but if you can do that, it really is just one of the best experiences. And so I stayed there for grad year. I did my grad school teaching there, and then while I waited for my wife to graduate, I took a job at San Marcos High School. It was my first high school. It's in Santa Barbara. And I kind of called my shot there a little bit. There was like a big group interview. They interviewed a bunch of us. They called me. They actually told me I was the first one they were calling. And I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. And they're like, which spot do you want? We've got all these middle school spots, and we have one high school spot. And I'm like, high school spot. I want the high school spot. That's where I want to be. Why? And they were like, well, you're the first we're calling. We don't really want to get rid of the high school. Maybe a middle. And I'm like, nah, it's high school or I'm out.
Robust.
And
Wow.
they called me back, and they were like, all right, you can have the high school class. I was like, all right.
Sweet.
I was ready. I was genuinely ready to not take it. I did not
Yeah.
want to teach middle school. They
Yeah.
are animals. They're
Yeah.
wild animals in middle school. They're crazy. So I got that high school job, San Marcos High School. Actually, really funny, SMHS, San Marcos High School. And then Santa Barbara's really weird. It's like really hard to get like entry level jobs. It's like if you're already have made it, it's fine to come back and start or continue a business, but it's like really difficult to just like get like a full good paying job there. Even in teaching I was underpaid. And so we moved to Los Angeles for my wife wanted to be in the entertainment industry. And so not in front of the camera, like as behind the scenes, like she wanted to like help produce stuff. And so she got to she actually worked for Dustin Hoffman. I don't know if I ever told you guys these stories, but she worked for Dustin Hoffman for like 5 years or something like that as an executive assistant in like an office. And later, around the time that you guys were, she was probably working at I think she worked at a what's it called animation company. And then you know what though, even it's further because when she was pregnant with Kira, she had already moved on to doing interior design work at UCLA. So she was doing a grad program at there, and so she was already transitioning her job prospects. And so yeah, I moved from San Marcos High School to Santa Monica High School, SMHS to SMHS. The color scheme was not the same, but the SMHS worked out. And yeah, so I jumped in. What's crazy? So stats is really interesting. So I was there 1 year. So that was my third year teaching. In the summer between my third and my fourth year, both other AP stats teachers, they have two left for different reasons. One to have a baby, one to go work at UCLA. And they came to me and they said, you've taken a stats class. How would you like to teach AP statistics? I barely let him finish the sentence. I'm like, yes. What am I doing? I'm teaching.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. AP statistics, fantastic. I will teach that. And I've taught it every year I've ever taught since then. So that was only 3 years. I taught 24 years. 3 years I didn't teach it at the beginning. And from my fourth year teaching on, I've taught AP statistics. And that first year was rough. It was so weird. It was because I didn't know anything about the course. I was just going by what the book was doing. And it was just wild. But by the time I got to you guys, I kind of had my rhythm down a little bit better, a little more confidence, a little bit more knowing kind of what you needed to know, what you needed to do. I guess from looking at the signatures in the yearbook, I was still a little rough on the homework. I still was very demanding on the homework. We've dialed it back a little bit since then, but yeah. So we did that I taught there for 9 years. It was my 11th year teaching. We had Kira. It was crazy. She had a I don't know how to say it, like a birthmark, strawberry hemangioma. There's nothing to worry about. But we had to have surgery on one on her side to remove it. It was like the size of a small egg on her, like above her hip. And so we did that, and we're stressed out. We're in the waiting room. It's not a big deal. It's a very superficial surgery, but whatever. You give your kid over to full anesthesia. You're a new parent. You're gonna be freaked out. And someone random not quite in the family asked, so are you guys gonna move back to Orange County? And we kind of took that in, and we were like, no, we're gonna stay in LA. And then literally that night, we took our girl back. She's all sedated, she's sleeping. And I turned to Jackie and I said, you're about to finish interior design. I'm a teacher and can teach anywhere. If you do ever want to move back to Orange County, it kind of has to be now. This was literally 1 year after I had you guys. So this would have been the graduation year 2011. And early on in that graduation year, she's like, yeah, all my family's there. Your family's there. We only came to LA because of entertainment. I'm now going to be in interior design, which I can do anywhere. I know what you're right. So in that one moment, I've never made a life-changing decision faster than that one. Like it was 5 minutes. We weren't going to leave LA, and then we absolutely were going to leave LA. Like it was crazy how quick that happened. And so I started making moves. I was department chair, as you guys, some of you wrote in there, knew I was department chair. And so I couldn't leave them in the lurch. I had to tell them way, way, way in advance. Normally people wait till the summer and they're like, all right, deuces. But I had to tell them quick. And so I told them early so they could hire after me. They ended up hiring a really nice guy. And I kind of jumped with no parachute into the job market. Now this was 2000. This would have been 2011. So we were at the bottom tail end of the financial crisis. So here's the nuts part. You guys asked about finances earlier.
Right.
We bought at the peak, and we sold our house at the trough. This is what not to do. I'm not kidding. We lost in the neighborhood of $100,000 on the house. We bought it at around 400. We sold it at around 3.
Oh my gosh.
But we knew what we were doing, and we had to pay money to get out so that we weren't like in financial, like what do you call it, like not bankruptcy, but like short sale. You know,
Right.
like you could still buy a house, like it doesn't destroy your credit. And when we came to Orange County, we found a house that was more expensive than we thought. We did get some support from our parents and things like that to try to like just bridge that gap. And we bought a house, and then we rode that. We don't cry for me. We rode that trough back up.
Good.
Back up. So, but it was an insane process. Like we could do a whole podcast on that one purchase of that home. It was what we call a short sale process. So they were selling in distress. It took 8 months. 8 months from the time we were the official buyer of the house. 8 months for that process to go through. All the time I'm living at my parents' house with a new kid, and my wife's not her parents. You know, like we're living in with the in-laws. I'm sure that was great for her. No, they're nice people, but it was tough. So like I said, I just jumped into Irvine, no parachute, no job already, and I took one interview at what's called Woodbridge High School, which is oddly our you mentioned I graduated from University High School. Woodbridge High School is our crosstown rival. That's our like direct rival. And so I get this job at Woodbridge High School, and I apply for it. I don't know that they need a stats teacher. I don't even know if they knew at that moment they need a stats teacher. I just come with these credentials. I was department chair, teaching for 11 years. I've taught stats. I've taught all these things. And they hired me, and they immediately hired, and they said, and we want you to teach statistics here. So without a break, boom, like fly straight into teaching more statistics, and I've never looked back. It's been great. So yes, then we got this house, and we have one other child. So we have 2 kids, Kira, who you guys met, and then Jovi is our youngest. And she's 10. Our youngest is 10, and our oldest is about to start high school, freshman year. She's about to start high school, and I've been teaching at Woodbridge, and I'm department chair there now too. And
Amazing.
We're going great, going solid. So what a ride, but you know, I wouldn't trade it. And my time everywhere has been fantastic. So
first of all, amazing. Funny how things come full circle. Your oldest is going into high school. This podcast is about high school. She was born in our class period of time. It's just the perfect timing to hear. And we're really, really happy to hear that you're doing well. And part of the reason why we started this podcast is because me and Tyler finished our education, and we went into this job market during COVID. And we were like, I wonder if people are feeling like us, and I wonder if we miscalculated in choosing our respective professions. So I want to go back into your story and dive right in. And it sounds right about college time when you're majoring in psychology, minoring in mathematics. And it sounds like that one class that you took, which was statistics in college for credentials, kind of changed your life in a way from that point. And we want to know, one, why you chose mathematics as a minor, and 2, did you feel any kind of imposter syndrome when you first started?
Oh my God, great question. Fantastic. So I will say this, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. My mom was a math teacher for like 37 years. She was at Estancia High School when she finished her career. Cool. And so that's it's like the next district over from Irvine. And so we really don't go far, you know. And she was also a psychology major, and she was also a math minor. So it kind of was a laid out thing. I did really fall in love with psychology. So I knew whatever I wanted to do, I wanted it to involve some level of psychology. I loved knowing how people think, knowing why they think that way. And it worked out great for teaching because I could figure out, okay, where is your misunderstanding? Instead of just having to go with what they were saying, I could kind of figure out how they were thinking and go a little deeper. And it's worked out so many times for me to have that deeper understanding of what's really
Right.
kind of rubbing the kid the wrong way about this concept or something. Anyways, so, but I will say in that those later years of college, I was thinking about, okay, could I do be a therapist? And I actually thought about therapy for a long time, but I felt that I would be the type that couldn't detach enough. Like I would get in here and talk to people about their problems, and that I would just like absorb those. And now, having been a teacher for this much time, I think I was right, because the number of times that I go home, I could have 10 successes. I think a lot of teachers feel this way. You get that one failure of the day, and it's what keeps you up at night. Like you're just like, oh, how can I do that better? And it's why we're good teachers. You know, it's like you come back, attack that problem the next time a little bit better and a little more solidly, and you do well. But yeah, so therapy was I was thinking it, and I actually helped researchers at UCSB do some of their research. So I got behind the scenes of some of the research, and I did like that. Honestly, that's a good second one, because it would include, like, if you became a professor, it would include some teaching and then some researching. The research felt like it took a very long time and was, I don't know. At the time, I wasn't teaching statistics, and so I think now I would be more equipped to like try that out. But like at the time, I was like, oh, this feels like, what if you mess up? Like, what if you like mess up your theory, mess up your hypothesis? That's a year of your life down the drain. Like, where does the money come from? And the publisher perish of it. It felt so stressful and not like a clear path, not an obvious path. So the obvious path was high school teaching. I knew there would always be demand for it. I knew that I understood the financials. And so to get a little deeper there as to why I thought of it as not a terrible choice, I knew I would do what my parents did, which is through our young adulthood, and even through like now, I would be making less than my friends. And that, sure enough, is happening. I've got lawyer friends, they're making, 2-3 times as much as I am, or whatever. Where it pays off is in the benefits and in the pension that you get afterwards. So there's a thing called CalSTRS, at least in California. You teach for your career here, you get something like 85% of your top salary for like the rest of your life. And so I was like, okay, that's amazing, like life security for if I can find someone who's probably going to need to work when like we're young. That was like the big thing. It's like, oh man, my wife's probably going to need to like be okay not being a stay-at-home mom, like having some level of a job. And my wife started out like that she wanted to be that anyways. It wasn't like I had to convince her. So I said, so long as that's happening, I think with 2 salaries, I think we're going to be living an okay life, and then we're going to be living a nice, comfortable retirement because of what my job can offer. So I think that's what led me down that path. And then the teacher education program, it's like all the path was clear to me. And when it was clear to me, that made me comfortable at it. I knew I did teacher education program, and I knew how to apply, and I knew how to interview. And then, so now you asked about the imposter syndrome. So, man, those first couple of years, I'm like 22.
Okay.
Did I start when I was 21? Okay, hang on. I'm going to do a little math here. So let's see. I started that year, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So I started teaching when I was 22, but I will say I started, student teaching, I was 21. So when I was student teaching, I was 21. And there is a funny story to this, because I was in the Santa Barbara area, and one of my first teaching positions, it was at a school, and there was like a senior in my class, and I'm 21, and I go to a friend's party, and I'm sitting on his couch, and it's in Isla Vista, and here comes that senior in my class, and he walks around the corner in my friend's apartment, like my friend's house on the beach, and he comes around we're both holding a beer. He comes around, and we both hide our beers.
He just cheers him at that point. Yeah.
Wait, what? And I'm like, I held my beer back up, and I'm like, I'm over 21 here. Like, I'm not gonna let you out, but like, you gotta move along. Like, I'm not high five, but like, get going.
Yeah.
Find a different one. Like, I know you don't know anybody here, because I know everybody here. I know you don't know anybody here.
Right.
And that was hilarious. But but then my first real year teaching, I was 22, and my oldest student is probably 18. And you're just like, I am commanding your attention, and I've never done any of this before. Definitely every teacher, I think, has some imposter syndrome for those first couple of years. And it really is, you have to like commit to like, you deserve to hear for their attention. You deserve their attention.
Right.
You deserve to demand it and get it and request it and have it. And that's like one of the biggest things, because the young teachers, what they do is they just let the kids kind of like yap all over them and have crosstalk and talk back to them and all this other stuff. And they just kind of like internalize that, yeah, that's what I deserve, because I'm a stone's throw older than you. So, you know,
Right.
and especially if they're short or whatever. But again, I'm a
You're
slightly
taller.
taller guy.
Yeah.
So, you know, I came into my own a little bit faster there. But yeah, so yeah, a little bit of imposter syndrome, not much. I got over it real quick. Second year, I was smooth sailing.
That sounds good. At what point did you start feeling comfortable that you had your method down and you felt, you know, comfortable teaching classes from the start to finish of the year?
Yeah, so my first teaching position at San Marcos had a block schedule, full block schedule. So it was actually a 4x4 block. So you taught 4 periods for a semester, and you started over from scratch and 4 other periods.
Okay.
And so I taught there for 2 years, and actually couldn't have been a better experience, because I got to start classes from the beginning 4 times in 2 years. And I felt like starting a class is like the most important moment, because you set the tone. It is, you can just imagine, even though you haven't been teachers, how hard it would be to rein back in a class that you started with like a kind of a lazy atmosphere to it, right? Like it would be so hard to get them ramped back up, right? So, but I got to start those classes after 4 years. So I thought that I was feeling pretty good, but still not awesome. When I went to Santa Monica High School for my first year, I felt pretty good, but it was definitely a higher clientele. Like the parents were a different animal there.
Even more so than Irvine? Oh, I guess that was obviously
I
before,
hadn't been Irvine yet. Yeah,
right.
So Santa Monica helped me prepare for Irvine.
Okay. I feel like that's the progression you're going for. Yeah.
Santa Barbara, they were chill. Like I barely got parent phone call. The only parent interaction I got was I was a water polo coach, and I had a game where I had 2 goalies, and one was doing poorly, and so I pulled her, and then for another, it was a women's water polo, and for another one, and then she ended up doing pretty poorly too, maybe worse than the first. So after a little cool off in the first one, I switched them back. And after that, I had to have sit down conversations with both parents of both girls, because neither one of them were happy about the situation. I was like, okay, I don't know, your girls are messing up. Like that's what you do as a coach. Anyways, whatever. So I came to Santa Monica and had to figure out, like, my first back to school night, I got like yelled at by a parent in back to school night, and everyone in the room, all the parents were like, the parents out of line, like this is not the moment. I had more parents come up and tell me, we're sorry for her, you're doing a great job, don't worry about it. And anyway, but that rattled me for sure. And I think it took after that year, I think by the time I started teaching stats, I was feeling pretty good. But then stats messed me up again because it was so brand new. It was so difficult at the first. That first year was rough, but I did it with a smile, and I was honest with them. I'm like, this is my first year teaching it. We're gonna be in this together. So
nice.
It worked out okay. But I think till 4th and 5th year, I think you really find your stride.
Very nice. It sounds like over time you develop like the skills to handle our type of class. You know, I think our class was pretty smart, right, T?
I think so. That was my highest AP class grade, was in Tipper's stats class. So
I think I got a 4 on it.
Yeah, I got a
5-point scale. I got a 4 or something.
I felt, I just remember feeling like real confident, at least going into that AP. And definitely it was credit to Tipper and all that. So that made a big difference. But I was just going to kind of ask like how your teaching style has evolved, since your early 20s, right? And kind of where you're at now. Has there been a change in philosophy, or what are your kind of, how do you start the class right, like you said, and kind of keep it reined in at the beginning?
I think there were 2 major shifts. One I did very, very early, and like a second one I did later on. The first one, in my first couple years teaching, I would, I got that theater voice. I can hit the back of the room. I would talk over my kids. So my method of getting the kids quiet was to like kind of yell over them a little bit, and and I did it, and I shouted them down. But I'd come every weekend, I'd have lost my voice, or it was stressful or whatever, and I'm like, this is unsustainable. I just can't keep doing that as my classroom management system. So pretty quickly I did an opposite thing. I asked the principal, I said, am I allowed to keep the kids for like a couple minutes after class, like after the bell rings? Like, am I legally allowed? Do you have my back if I
Right.
They said, absolutely. And I said, fantastic. So, and it's block schedule. So there's never like a 5-minute passing period. It's like always like, and now lunch, or and now like
Okay.
a break. Like,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it was never too bad. So what I would do is I told the kids when I came in, I said, I am going to say, maybe in my quietest voice, I need your attention right now. After I say I need your attention right now, I'm going to look at the clock. After 5 seconds, anything after 5 seconds that I don't have your attention, I'm just going to mark that time on the board. And so I never yelled again after that. I was just like, I need your attention right now. And the kids, they quiet themselves. Most I ever had to hold a class after was like 30 seconds, 35 seconds or something like that. And it totally reversed doing that kind of classroom management.
Right.
So that smoothed things out. That made me way less stressed and everything else. The other major shift I did was probably towards the end with you guys, and then probably in the transition to Woodbridge High School here in Irvine. And that was just like how to manage kind of the grading load and the homework load for you guys, and just kind of do more with less, if that makes sense. Like where I could trim down, make things smaller while still maintaining the proof of knowledge base from your end. Like I think in the early parts of teaching, I would just like, oh, I got to give a quiz now. I got to give a quiz, and I got to give a test, and I got to give a thing. But what I learned at the end is, what do I need in the end? I need to know that you understand the material.
Right.
How do I lower the amount that I'm giving and receiving, and workload on my part, workload on your part, stress on your part, while still being able to satisfy my confidence in what you're doing in terms of the AP tests and things like that. And so I think I've like trimmed that back a little bit, as I mentioned earlier with a couple comments are like, even though your class had the most work ever, and I was like, okay, well, I've changed since then a little.
That wasn't my recollection at all. I don't remember. Jim, did you feel overwhelmed in Tipper's stat? I didn't feel like that at the time, at least.
I never felt overwhelmed. No, I felt like I was pretty much grasping the concepts that he was teaching at the time. But I'm pretty sure our peers want to know this, though.
Yeah.
We graduated in 2010, and it's been 14 years. Since 2010, if you can recall, till now, has it gotten harder or easier on students in high school? And have you noticed a difference? I mean, they shifted around the SAT and stuff like that. So has it gotten any more difficult or maybe easier? I don't know.
It's tough. It's tough. It depends on like to do what? To survive and like graduate, probably. If anything, maybe easier. We're starting to do this thing called standards-based grading, retake quizzes. It's starting to kind of take over. Really? I think some of that is hitting Santa Monica as well, because I still have teacher friends over there. Like minimum F scores of like 50% instead of zeros. So that's going to help out when you like miss a homework assignment or something like that. Like generous late work policies, like things like that. So to like just make it through, I think it might have gotten easier. But at the same time, now everybody's working off of a higher floor. And so the ceiling might have gone up a little bit since you guys graduated. So the number of like APs that you need to take and pass to get into those top colleges probably has increased, maybe minutely a little bit. And without the SAT, when people were relying on that as kind of like that's my hammer, I can prep for that. I can take that 20 times and nail that. And then let that get me into a UCLA. It's like that doesn't exist anymore. So it really has to be off of your high school work. So that means if you're like not taking Calc BC at the end, if you're not taking like the most rigorous course of study that you could have been taking, I think it probably is a little bit harder. When you include that, and again, another thing we could do an entire podcast on is COVID. When COVID hit, it changed everything. It changed everything about teaching. It changed everything about being a student. It wiped out around a year to a year and a half worth of like quality education from a certain wherever you were when that hit, right? The kids who were graduating, like they missed their graduation, but the kids who were in 7th grade literally didn't learn how to be civil humans. Like I'm not even joking. Our first year when those kids came freshman year, it was the wildest bunch of freshmen, no joke, that we have taught. We had more fights on our campus in that 1 year, and it's not many, it was like 10. But we had more fights on that campus in that year than we had in the 10 previous years combined at my current school. And it's just like they were just they were just wild. And then like this most recent year, it was a different issue. And I heard around the world, the current 7th graders, it's a reading issue. Like they don't know how to read very well, because when they were in COVID, they were in like 3rd grade. And that's when you do like reading competitions and like how many books can you read? And, so every year's having like a different issue. Every like graduating class has got their own like blind spot to COVID. And so that's a problem. Teachers got like wrecked during COVID. And then we worked so hard. And then we just like, it's almost like we didn't have a summer that year as we were prepping how to do it. And it's just like, we needed multiple years to recover. I'm only now feeling like normal post-COVID. So, yeah. So it's been tough around everybody. So stress-wise, I think people are just handling stress differently. I think there's a lot more like psychologists on campus and mental health specialists that can like talk to people and kids going through it. It's just in a different way,
As a teacher and a father, how did you mitigate some of the issues that Kira might experience during that COVID time? Did you try to do extra reading assignments for her during that time, or how did you, as a parent, kind of and a teacher?
Yeah, we just made sure we were on it. And a lot of, there's no knock on other parents, but like some didn't know how to do it or didn't want to or whatever. But like we made sure that we had the time. Like my wife's worked from home. I was worked from home for a while during that. We were doing COVID Zoom calls. We made sure they were on their Zoom call. We made sure that they had their equipment, that they were doing what they needed to be doing, that they weren't playing other things. We were just like watchful of that. Now we got lucky. Kira is and Jovi is very attentive, very good student, and they were always wanting to try their best. So if we told them to do reading time, boom, they would do reading time. Oh, here's a fun thing. We bought an iPad, still have it to this day. We bought an iPad during that time so that when we're working, my parents would do reading time with the girls. So they would do a FaceTime call. And since they couldn't see them in person, that was their face-to-face. So they would do reading with them. It takes a village, we just kind of kept emphasizing what was important. And I would say they made it through with no real serious gaps. So we're lucky for that. We're lucky.
So before we go into a job deep dive, T, I want to ask this, and something we've been curious about because AI is really prevalent right now. And I know that you have an eye on this because I remember a specific story where you caught this elaborate cheating scheme going on at Santa Monica High School, and it was because everyone had the same answer on their test. I remember this like it was yesterday. And I know AI is prevalent. I know it's popular. I know you can probably plug in a statistics problem to ChatGPT, and it will spit out probably an accurate answer. So I want to hear your take on this. Has it affected the way you teach? What have you noticed? And just tell us, because back in 2010, that was not an option. We just
it wasn't. And I was always good at catching cheaters and things like that. And I say I like doing it. It puts stress on the kid, but like I like stopping them in their tracks there before it got too serious, like before you get kicked out of a college for it or something like that. So the story, it's so funny. The story you're talking about, because I remember that exact one, happened years before you guys, but at Santa Monica High School. So it must have been maybe my 2nd or 3rd year teaching AP statistics. And there was a bunch of kids who were getting the correct perfect multiple choice. And their free response was terrible. It was like blank almost. Like it was just so bad. Like literally sometimes there was no answer on the free response. And so I was like, what's going on here? And at the time I was using 2 versions of the test, one in one period and one in another. But everyone in the classroom had the same version of the test. And so I literally busted out the seating chart and I looked for where these kids were sitting. And I noticed they were all sitting like either next to each other or at a diagonal from each other. And I'm like, okay, but where are they getting the answers? Like 3 or 4 kids. And like, where are they getting the answer from? And I found there was this one girl who was like my best student and was always getting 100%. And she sat near the front, probably because she requested it or whatever. But and I don't even think she knew they were looking. And it was at the time, for some reason, I only had like 4 or 6 multiple choice questions. So they were writing really big, and one could just see it over her shoulder and then pass it on down the line, like a little domino system. So I had the smartest idea because I was like, I don't want to accuse these kids, right, of cheating. And I don't even want to accuse them because I'm going to have to give them a different version of the test. And then when we go over the test, it's going to be a different version of the test. And then I don't want like, hey, why are you giving us a different version of the test? Like, I don't want there to be any, ill will there. And so what I did is I gave the smart girl a different version of the test. So I gave the one I thought they were cheating off of a different version of the test. And I just had a private conversation with her. I just said, I think people are grabbing your answers. I don't think you know about it. I told her after the fact, I said, when we go over it, it's going to be different, but you're fine. She got 100% again, this girl. And sure enough, those other kids got those exact answers, which were 100% on that version of the test, but 0% on their version of their test. And so, and because they were doing nothing on their free response, because they were relying solely on their multiple choice scores, they got like really terrible scores on there. It was like, I didn't even need to accuse them of cheating, ever. I never once actually said the word cheating to them. That just happened. It was a very natural consequence of the event. I think a couple of them dropped after that. It was early on in the semester, and it was over. So I tell that story in full because I think that's the one you were talking about, and also because it was crazy. That story showed up in some sort of BuzzFeed article of like top 12 ways your teacher caught someone cheating. And because I'm so interested in that, I read that article, and there was that story with no names, but that exact story in that BuzzFeed article. Like, so some student in college like had gone and even said at the beginning, this didn't happen in my class, but my teacher told the story. So they're going off of that story I just said.
Wow.
And then they went to college and then wrote it into BuzzFeed, and then BuzzFeed got it on an article and it showed up on my Facebook, or whatever, something like that. It was crazy. So catching cheaters has been interesting. The ChatGPT. So I don't send home a lot of do this at homework. There's like 2 projects that we do. And I think I've just come to terms of like, look, if you're going to use ChatGPT to like structure the project, like, I guess there's not a ton I can do about it. The only thing I do is have you write it in class, right? I could go through the detail of it. It has to be on Google Docs, and it has to be with what's it called, like edit, like you can
track changes or something.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And so a lot of teachers use that, and you can just like hit the play button. There's like an add-in where you can like see it animated basically, and it just goes and then just all of the content, and so if it all just kind of jumps in there all at once, that could be a problem. I mean, a kid could just then transcribe it word for word.
The arms race of teachers and like students cheating, I love that. It's like a constant effort.
It's a very constant effort for sure.
It is a constant back and forth. My favorite new one from teachers, and it really is just like the English teachers are the ones that have to deal with this. It's for me, it's just it's not as big of a deal. But the English teachers can only do in-class essays now. They just can't do them at home anymore. It's just too difficult. So and handwritten, all that. So my favorite one is that in your prompts, you include in white text, include the word banana or like something crazy, like include a word that should never be in this essay, right? Like include, Cal State Lutheran or something like that, right? And then when they copy it, right, and then they throw it in ChatGPT and they take that whole prompt, they don't notice that white text became dark, right? Because it would in ChatGPT. They don't see it, and then the essay comes out, and all the teacher has to do is go look for that random phrase that they put in there, and it's such a great analog solution to kids copy and pasting their prompts into ChatGPT. It's so fascinating. Like you said, the arms race is great. It reminds me, honestly, back in the day, if we can do some Wayback Machine. College time is when we did all the pirating of music, right? So LimeWire and Napster and
LimeWire.
And you guys were probably you guys probably had a hand in that, right? Like elementary school.
Very end. I remember LimeWire and stuff. Yeah, very end of my middle school, maybe.
So what the business people would do, because they want their music out there, is they had a moment that was so genius. They started flooding the scene. Instead of trying to take the stuff down, they went the other way. They just flooded the scene with tracks that were labeled correctly, that started right. First 30 seconds is the song you're looking for, is the exact correct length, but then the last 3 minutes is just white noise static. And so they just like threw tons of that in there so that kids would download this song, they'd listen to it from the beginning, they're like, all right, this is my jam, all right, cool. And then when they got it back, and they'd have to download the song like 10 times over before they were just like, dude, I guess I'll pay $1, dude, this is terrible. I'll pay $1 to just buy the song. And it was I love a great analog system. like a
Yeah.
a defeat, like a hack. It's fantastic. So for
You
me,
could
it's
write a
not
book about that alone, I'm sure. That would hit,
right.
honestly. New York
Yeah.
Times bestseller, just like a professor tells like the best cheating stories, you know?
Best cheating and ways of defeating cheating. My
Right.
favorite one that literally just happened this year was I. This is so crazy. This is where the psychology comes in. You know what I did to catch a cheater? I stood up quickly. That's it. I stood up quickly. If you're someone who's
Okay.
not cheating, you don't care where I am or what I'm doing. I got up from my desk with authority and quickly. My guy put both hands down on his
Wow.
desk because he had a cheat sheet, and it's like instinctual. You can't. It's
Yeah.
like
Fight
lower
or flight.
brainstem,
Total
Yeah.
fight
fight
or
or
flight.
flight. Like
Yeah.
he just had to cover it thing up. It was a minor cheating thing. It wasn't that bad, but I walked beeline straight to him. Just who flinches? Who flinches? I'm gonna come get you.
That's hilarious.
I'll only give you credit for this though, Tip, if obviously you call people out for using ChatGPT, only if you don't use ChatGPT when it comes to writing student like letters of recommendation. Because if you use ChatGPT for that, then you got to take all
Never,
that back. You got to take it.
never,
You got to write
never,
those by
never.
hand. You got to write
I
those
know
by
right
hand.
goes my hand for sure. Yeah. So far I haven't succumbed.
Okay.
I will say I use templates of my old letters and
I was gonna
kind of like
ask, how do you
change.
know
Yeah,
all the
let's say
letters
you
of rec that you get?
It's so many letters, but like you I think every teacher does this, but you like find a student who was most similar, often from like 4 years ago, who
Oh,
was like
okay.
kind of similar in things that they did and
Right.
ability levels and all other stuff. And then you kind of gut out like the whole middle of the thing. Like I just rewrite the whole middle because the whole middle is very personal to
Right.
you. But like the like header and like the closer are often like really similar.
Because you wrote me a really good letter of rec, but unfortunately you put Ryan Smith on the whole thing. No, I'm just kidding. No, you did not. You did not do that. You wrote a good letter of rec. You did not write my brother's name, but
Oh
that
my
was really
god, that would have been
hilarious.
amazing. That would have been amazing.
That's too funny.
Oh,
Let's
man.
jump into the job deep dive, and let's take a look at what being an AP statistics teacher looks like.
Yeah, so we included this segment just in case there's people out there listening that aren't in the Santa Monica High School community specifically. They're like, what do I get out of this podcast, right? So we're trying to make it more applicable to everybody out there listening in terms of if somebody wanted to kind of follow the, the breadcrumbs to become the next Geoff Tipper as a statistics teacher, what would you say, like, is your average day like? How many, do you work over the summers? Do most teachers work over the summers? Like, what is the nitty gritty of being a statistics professor like?
So like the day-to-day, not how I got the job, but like the actual
Sure.
day-to-day.
Well, you can
Right.
say a little bit of like the degree qualifications maybe really
Yeah.
quickly, but
Okay. So
more
really
about the
quick.
day-to-day.
Yeah. So I did minor in math, but I majored in psychology, and in psychology is where I took the statistics. What's weird about math is even if you major in it, you don't take statistics. At least in my school, it was not part of it. So you had to take stats outside. So if you do want to become a teacher and want to do statistics, you should probably take a statistics class in addition to whatever you're doing for your math major. But that's it for the job stuff. Go to teacher education program. I think the UCs are the best. I think that's like top notch. I think Cal State's are very good. And I think everything else is serviceable and you can get a job out of there. But that's the order. So once you get the job, the day-to-day. So it really comes in like three phases. There's the planning, the actual day, the classroom day, the teaching part of it, and the grading part. So I'll take those in those three chunks. The planning can happen at any time. It can happen the day before. It can sometimes happen the morning of. If you're a very veteran teacher like me, and you've got class after class, in just grab a folder and you can teach this class from scratch.
Sure.
But when you're new, you're probably spending the weekends, is my guess, planning out your week. And modeling it. I would be very transparent with the kids about like what's on the docket, right? Like let them know here's our week in a glance. Here's what we're going to be doing for the whole week. It helps me stay organized. It helps them stay organized. Sometimes they catch something that I was missing and they're like, hey, are we going to do this? You mentioned about this. So by being transparent with them, I get nice feedback back. So that part's okay. Usually there's a book to go off of. Oddly, my school doesn't really go off of a book. So we have to work with what we call a PLC, which stands for Professional Learning Community. It's basically all the other teachers who teach Math 1. That's what we call Algebra 1, Math 1. And so we work out together. We have like a shared folder and a calendar that we work off of, and we pull our ideas and our quizzes and tests from and things like that. So we work with them. We get our week organized. We make all the copies, make them well in advance. That copier is going to go down the time you need it most.
Right.
for sure. So like absolutely minimum a day before. And someday I'll learn to do this as well. So that's what you got to do. So for
That's the stress part.
planning honestly is not that terrible. It takes a little extra time. It takes a lot of extra time in your first and second and third years, but it slows down after that. And then you're in your groove at that point. So, and then the teaching part, I think is the most fun part. Obviously, it's the peer-to-peer like conversations that are going on. It's the teacher-led discussions. You got to kind of decide, do you want to be like a lecturer, which I kind of did a lot, or if you want to do group work, which I tried to do. I tried to be like lecture, but with like activities that you could get your hands on. I think now I'm a little more group work focused than I was before, but it oscillates. It goes based on my whims, I suppose. But you have to decide how you want to structure that class. And you have to decide on your classroom management style. Are you their best friend? Are you the stern, holder of the rules? Are you like where are you? I'm kind of in between. I'm your friend, and I try to use the casual, fun atmosphere of the room as the carrot to keep the room that nice. And if you guys mess around too much, then we have to go stricter. And when kids experience that, they have an innate feel to want to keep the room fun and free flowing. And that means when they're having conversations and I call them back to attention when I need their attention, they give me that attention because they don't want to like ruin that trust. They don't want to ruin the vibe that we have going on. That's my classroom management. Honestly, I've rarely ever needed to really truly like discipline a student. A couple detentions here and there, a couple catching kids cheating, but they're like breaking up a fight or like physicality, never. So that's sometimes potential teachers are scared of that. I haven't found that to be an issue, but again, I'm a 5'11" male. So
ex-water polo player. Yeah.
Ex-water polo player. Take that with a grain of salt, right? Whatever that means.
Right.
And so then there's the, in the planning part, I would also say is test creation, which can be very laborious, like creating good quality test questions that really challenge the students. So try to find a group of people that can help you with that, maybe some other resources where you can pull from. But remember that anytime you pull a question from anywhere on the internet, that means kids can pull that from the internet also. So ChatGPT style, like ChatGPT doesn't have to happen in the moment. It can happen with one kid who took a test one day and tells another kid, hey, I think I saw that question, or go Google this answer, go ChatGPT this answer. So you got to be a little thoughtful. Always, trust but verify kind of mentality on the kids and their cheating. So, and then the last part is like the grading, which is honestly, if I could remove one thing, it would be the grading. Like it's definitely the biggest toll on my week to week experience. It's definitely the biggest downer. It's the thing that makes me feel like I have homework permanently for the rest of my life. It's the thing that makes me feel like I got, I can't do this thing over the weekend because I really do have to get this test back to them. So an AP stats test can take me anywhere from, depending on the nature of the answers, anywhere from 5 to 12 hours to grade. And think of that as 12 hours on top of my regular job, right? Like, so I've got this normal, 40-hour a week job, and then somewhere I got to kind of squeeze in 12 hours of grading this, stats test that can come in pieces, but it can also happen on the weekends. And if that's on the weekend, that's 2 6-hour chunks of my weekend. That's the bulk of the weekend right there. So it's, people can do it faster. You can do more multiple choice. But I find that I get less feedback back. So that's where it's like, I just choose to have enough free response where I know that a kid is doing this on the multiple choice and this on the free response. I can like
match
it out. And so
can you outsource that to TAs at all? Do you ever have TAs throughout your career, or are you not a fan? Or
so TAs are good. They can do good stuff. We mentioned Dina at the top of the episode. She was actually a TA in her senior year for me, and I could have her grade some stuff because she actually took my classes and did that stuff. But like, a lot of my TAs, they're seniors who if they haven't taken stats, or if they're currently in stats because it's a senior level class, it's like awkward. Then they're not going to grade their own peers' work. That's going to be weird. So it's kind of hard to have them grade it. The homeworks, which are just kind of checkoffs, I honestly have my daughters do it sometimes. Use them as some
child
TAs,
labor. That's perfect. That's great.
But some people do use TAs, and if you have like quick like checkoff work, just like did they do it or not? Absolutely, you can definitely clear out some weekend time for that.
Yes,
by using TAs.
Nice. Well, that was a pretty good deep dive into the day-to-day life of stats teacher. Thank you, Tipper.
That's pretty awesome. All right, T, your favorite memory of Mr. Geoff Tipper while you took his class?
Yeah, I think obviously the Scarpa comment was significant in my brain at the time if I wrote it in your yearbook. So I do remember, I think that's a proxy for just the general nature. Obviously, this is one of the longest podcasts we've ever done, just because I think you're very emotive and a very good storyteller, obviously. So you always kind of struck my memory as one of the better storytellers as a teacher, right? So I think that was always kind of a staple in your classes. I do remember after the AP, it was mostly just a lot of life advice and like honest, like heart to heart conversations of like, this is what you can expect freshman year, and this is how to make friends, and the social aspect of what college would entail, which I think, I especially valued as, somebody that's obviously been there before and what to expect and all that. So I just remember you being, one of like the most down to earth, real professors too. And obviously the Clippers, I think that maybe Jim will talk about that too. So, huge Clippers diehard fan, which is kind of rare because Lakers were really good. 2010, they won the whole thing. So there's a lot of hate for Clippers, and you were fast to the, that team for so long. So definitely respected that nature of it for sure. But a lot of good things to say. It's hard to say a bad thing about you too.
Thank you. I always hope the stories were entertaining, and I tried to have I always tried to have a point to them, something that you could take home from it. Never just like telling stories just to tell them, but like, one thing I learned from while I was at your guys' school was to put the stories toward the end. Like, get through the math first.
Yeah.
Have the stories be the dessert, or maybe if we had a block schedule, like a mental break in the middle. But like, get the math done first.
Get the math done first. Yeah. What about you, Jim?
So many memories with Tipper. Where do I begin? Me and Tyler liked your class so much that we would visit you at lunch, and we would play Kemps with Austin Hodges, Joe Ramici, and we just play Kemps like in your room all the time. And at Samo, there was no Clipper fans whatsoever. It was me and maybe two other people and you as a teacher, and that was it. And Chris Kamen was playing for our team back then.
Chris Kamen,
Elton,
the caveman.
The caveman. And we had Sam Cassell, and that was a good year for us. I mean, we were like borderline playoff contenders, and Blake Griffin was just about to come in to the league and save us. I didn't get to live that down. The Lob City Clippers came after my high school experience.
Hey, wait, hold that thought. Hang on.
Okay.
He's got some memorabilia from Blake Griffin potentially.
Yes.
Yeah, that is a fact.
Dude, so much stuff on here. Hang on.
Every Clipper fan loves Blake Griffin. I mean, it's just who we are. We just love him.
So what you said, the Lob City? That was like a
Dude,
team style or something?
When we graduated, Lob City wasn't even a thing yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
No way. There it is.
Ball from Blake Griffin. That's
prized possession.
That's awesome.
That is so Blake Griffin right there.
That's perfect.
Wow. That's huge.
Awesome. Yeah.
You know what? I got to bring it out, dude. I actually have a signed ball. I'm getting a case for it by JJ Redick when he played for the Clippers. Actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Is he the new Lakers coach?
He's a new Lakers coach, but he was a Clipper.
Okay.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah.
There you go. Official.
And I won that from Fox Sports used to host Clipper games, and they had a tweet contest, and then Mark Rogandino chose mine, and they sent me the ball. It was pretty cool.
Mine came from a student of mine when I moved to Woodbridge, and he knew I was a Clippers fan, and I had a meeting with the parents. He wasn't doing so well. He was like barely getting a C. I had a meeting. I gave him some I thought easy suggestions, and the kid was dedicated, and he moved from barely getting a C, he got a B in the end, and the parents were so thrilled. They had some sort of I don't actually know how they got a hold of that. They had some sort of with them and got that signed ball.
That's an elaborate bribe. I love that.
Yeah. Right? It was an after the fact bribe.
Sure.
So
I'll trust you there. Yeah. All good teachers take bribes. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
He somehow got an A+. I don't even know. It just happened.
Don't know how that works.
And one story here is you had people do homework problems on the back chalkboard of that Samo High class. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
And I did one. I was chosen that day. I was kind of probably mad about it, but I did one. And I did well on it. And it was a really hard problem. and you gave me so much props and put so much confidence in me at a time where I was taking AP. It was my senior year, and stuff. But I appreciated it so much. I was like, this teacher's cool, man. I was like, he's a Clipper fan, and he gave me a whole bunch of confidence.
Do you still have a chalkboard today? Or are you past that?
So I don't have a back wall chalkboard anymore. I got a sidewall one, but yeah, we don't present the work as much anymore. It's just we do it in different ways. But yeah. So I did like that method. Like I like that method of being able to show like daily homework and things like that. But yeah, I do miss that. I feel like we should go back to that.
Yeah.
That was great.
Well, other than that was you were known for giving good advice, known for actually bantering with your students, which we appreciated. And you really did tell us what college would be like and what to look out for, and we really appreciated that. Not only just me and Tyler, but everybody who took that class. I think not one person said anything bad about Mr. Tipper. Great. So that's the real truth. And with that being said, let's send Mr. Tipper into the lightning round. I'll play this.
Yeah. These are some softer, easy going questions. Brings back some Samo nostalgia here. About 6 questions. So, first one is going to be: what do you think was the best off-campus lunch spot?
Best off-campus lunch spot. Oh, that's such a good one. So I ended up going towards California Chicken Cafe down Lincoln a little ways. There was my favorite spot.
Nice.
I don't think it was like you. I don't think it was like your guys, because it was a little harder to get to.
That was a bit harder. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, right off Marines or Lincoln. Yeah, off Lincoln Street. Okay. I think it's probably still there. I'm not too sure, but like everything else around, like El Pollo Loco and all that, that's all different.
It's all different now.
Pretty
much. El Pollo Loco, I went to a bunch. So.
Yeah, everything else is pretty much gone.
What was the burger place that's there? Like the original?
Oh, it was Tommy's.
Tommy's. It was Tommy's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably gone as well. I think it's a Starbucks now.
I don't even think it's a Starbucks now, dude. I think
really?
They
just keep changing it. Next question is gonna be: which year of high school would you most like to relive if you had to wake up and relive that entire year?
It's got to be senior year. Yeah, water polo was firing on all cylinders. I had my most confidence. It just rolled through. It was the smoothest. I got my best grades in my senior year.
You had the longest hair.
I had the longest hair, which remind me in a second. I'm gonna go. I think I know where the picture is. I'm gonna. I'm gonna get you that picture.
Okay, perfect. What was the hardest class you took at Sam, or not at Samo, but in high school?
Hardest class I took in. So it has to be U.S. history, AP U.S. history, which I think is kind of common amongst like all places. Like AP U.S. is always just like a killer of a course. I actually got a D. I got a D in one semester of that, and still got into UCSB, which is wild and just not what can happen nowadays. But yeah, so I got had to be the toughest.
That's incredible. Okay, nice. Would you rather have an early release Friday or a late start Wednesday? You can only choose one.
Early release Friday. Early release. Get that weekend started.
Yeah.
Fair. Let's see. This is gonna be an awkward one, but who was the hottest teacher at Samo?
And you can't say yourself. All right.
You can't say yourself. Come on, Tipper. Be real. That's right. Your wife will never watch this. I promise.
I got this one only because we're still kind of friends to this day. Mr. Ruprecht.
Oh, nice.
We've heard that before, actually.
Okay, good.
I love that.
I looked at the thing. He got best eyes in the year that we were. The graduation year.
That makes sense. And then the last lightning round question is: what song from, let's say we'll do our high school and your high school era is still on your playlist? So what 2010 song, and then what 1995 song do you still listen to?
Okay, 1995 song, and I remember specifically the Weezer, it was toward the end. It was actually when I was in college, but the Weezer Blue album came out, and the No Doubt Tragic Kingdom came out, and so I think kind of both those full albums are just like Sweater Song or whatever, things like that. Like just Weezer stuff is just forever shows up on the general playlist. And then from 2010.
Yeah. When Kira was born, what were you listening to?
What was I listening to? I think we were over to. So we So it's a niche thing. It's not like popular something.
Okay.
It's Pete Yorn has become our like absolute go-to favorite, and his stuff came out probably a little before that, but there was definitely some hits from there. So I'll go with that one. Pete
All
Yorn.
right, a deep cut
Go
right
look
there.
him up.
I'll
It's good
look
stuff.
that up. Pete Yorn.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, we ready for some final plugs, Jim?
All right. Well, final plugs, thoughts is just a segment that we have here to address our high school classmates and the broader scope of people watching this. Anything you want to leave them with? I mean, you gave us a lot of advice in high school, but I want you to think that these students are now in the workforce, beginning their careers, mid, just starting to build some steam and momentum, probably. And what would you say to us as if we were your high school students again?
I'm so used to giving like college advice, that, like transitioning that to like young adult advice, which I also have been in my life. So here's what I'd say, and it kind of is like a transition of what I am now currently giving as like college advice, but I'm going to alter it a little bit. So normally I say like learn to say yes to things, say yes to opportunities. I often have a lot of really interesting stories because I've said yes to a lot of things in my life. When someone came and said, "Do you want to go skydiving?" Like before my fear of heights kicked in, I'm like, yes, let me put myself in that situation. When a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, you want to do a road trip to Canada over the summer?" Like, yes, let's go and do that. These are things in college that I did. And then in my career, when someone's like, "Hey, do you want to be department chair?" Yeah, I was only like a 4th or 5th year teacher. Why should I be department chair? But yeah, okay, let me go ahead and try that. Hey, should we move to Orange County? Yes. Like, learn to say yes to things that might scare you, things that might challenge you, things that might press you. But I would alter it with also where you guys are getting with your careers. Also learn when to say no, right? Like when what's being asked of you is kind of outside and above your pay grade, outside and above what you're being compensated for, and that's not gonna like push your job forward or help the company directly when someone else can do it. There's probably, in terms of what you asked about imposter syndrome, there's probably this feeling that you're probably just growing out of like, oh, I'm kind of the new one at the company. And right around now, if you're like I was at your exact age, I'm starting to look around and I'm like, oh, wait a second, I'm median age at the company, or I'm more veteran here. These people have been here less long than I have, and maybe can be delegated to and can take on some of this responsibilities. And as the family life kicks in, and protecting the family life, protecting your kind of just mental health. So learn when to say yes on things that'll benefit you, that'll push your work forwards, but do learn when to say no as well.
Cool. Wow. And on that note, I mean, it couldn't get better. That's good advice, Tipper. We appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story and sharing your advice with us. And please encourage our classmates to come on here. We're having a little bit of pushback. It wasn't so bad, right, Tipper? Like
it was not bad.
That's right.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're not here to shut anyone. We just want to hear your story after high school. And just like that, that's the Alumni Podcast. Thanks, guys.
Peace.
And go Clippers, by the way.
Go Clippers. Yeah, absolutely.